What's going on, guys? I wanted to talk about Baki Dou. Alright, Baki Dou has finally dropped. This is an unscripted video. Alright, everything I'm saying is coming straight from the dome. We're just chatting. I have no reason to stick to a script and be all formal. I just want to talk about Baki Dou, the season that just dropped. It feels like half of the season because I'm pretty sure there's more coming. Don't know when, but hope it doesn't take too long. This season was unlike any other. At the same time, it was like any other. What do I mean by that? Well, this Baki season is pretty much like the DLC. What Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super is to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, right? The main story is pretty much done. We're just getting extra stuff that's happening, and let me tell you, it's something. So, Tokugawa, the old man that is the head of the Maximum Tournament or the Underground Arena, decides to just bring back the invincible samurai, Masashi Miyamoto. This isn't the first time Baki has used real fighters or warriors in their story. You know, this is like a pseudo version of the real world. The presidents are in this. It's a funny manga. It's a funny series, but they find Masashi Miyamoto's corpse or whatever from when he was buried. They find his spine that's still intact, and they extract cells from there and they just clone him. And the clone, it wasn't really him. It's just his body and his genetics. Where things really gets trippy is when Tokugawa calls his sister, I believe it's his sister, right? Sabuko Tokugawa, and she's pretty much like a sidekick with a crystal ball in the alleyway that you think is full of shit, but she tends to be the real deal. She claims to have the ability to call upon the dead, and what happens is that they possess her body and they talk to her. Now, they pretty much use this method to revive Masashi Miyamoto. While Masashi does spawn inside of her body as a soul, by kissing the clone, soul sort of transfers to the clone, and the clone starts to actually get his traits that he got during battle. Because remember, this is a perfect clone. Never seen battle before. But the moment like the soul enters his body, he starts losing some hair, starts getting scars here and there, and he ends up looking quite scary. I'm not gonna lie. It's the way his eyes are drawn. They're always wide, they're always sharp. Alright, and I know why he's like that. This dude isn't like a fighter like everyone else. He's a warrior. You gotta be aware of everything that's happening around you. You don't know when an arrow is gonna get to you, or a horse is gonna pull up on you. You're gonna get slashed, you're gonna get shot. This dude was on the battlefield where there was threats in the 360-degree range. You know, you're never safe. So to me, it makes sense that he's drawn in that way. The shape of his eyes sort of reminds me of Japanese paintings. They're choreographic paintings. I don't know what you would call them really. But some of the One Piece characters were drawn like that on Wano. Some of their eyes are like that. So I find it interesting that his eyes were very stylized in an ancient Japanese type of way. I like that. You probably can't tell because he's ugly just like every other Baki characters. But that's the charm of Baki, man. It was just so good. And all the other Baki characters, they're pretty much bored after the father-son fight. Like, that was the pinnacle of battle that could be witnessed in that world. You know, everyone's lifting weights, they're tired and they're yawning. You know, training, they're yawning. Pumping steroids, jackhammer, yawning. Alright, I say there's only one dude that pumps steroids in Baki, and that's jackhammer. AKA Jack Hanma. But they're all yawning. It's like a synonymous thing. They're all yawning at the same time because everyone's bored. So Tokugawa brought back an opponent worthy of their time, Miyamoto. And what I find interesting about this series, or this story arc in particular, is how they do battle with him. First of all, his existence is very similar to Pickle, as in he's a lab project. He's a lab project brought to life for battle. The thing is that Pickle's actually himself in his original body. Masashi is in a clone of his original body, you know? Which, you know, it's whatever. Pickle's still older than him. You know, it's the original Pickle, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Masashi Miyamoto is who he is. What I find interesting is how he fights without his swords. Baki has ki. They use ki very differently on Baki than they do in a lot of other series, except for that one point where Yujiro quite blatantly fired a ki blast from his fist during the last arc. You know those strobe lights that you see when the characters attack? Yeah, no one can see that, but when Yujiro actually attacked, everyone saw the lights for the first time. So that was kind of crazy. But yeah, there's ki on Baki. It's what Baki uses for his image training. When he imagines his opponent, everyone else can see him. And it's sort of how they were able to communicate with Yujiro's dead dad. It's weird, but like it's sort of like the extension of the imagination, but their willpower is materializing it in spiritual form that only those that have their third eye open can see, which those are martial artists. But Yujiro and Baki's fight was so powerful that even characters that didn't have their third eye open were able to see what they were seeing. You know, when they made that imaginary meal, all right, that ki food, that food made out of ki, everyone was able to see that, but usually people can't see. So that was happening throughout the entire arc. Like Masashi had imaginary blades that weren't there, but just because of the fighting stance he was taking, the other characters were able to see those blades and actually be affected by those blades despite not actually being cut. This actually happens on other anime. I think it happens on Bleach or Naruto. Like a character will use fear hacks, they'll like project their ki onto you, and the character will literally see a katana sword go through their head, only for it to not have happened. But it's the other character's murderous intent. So he's pretty much defeating them with his murderous intent alone. Like they're seeing themselves get carved up, stabbed, killed, but it's not actually happening. But they're using it as a measurement to actually see if they can beat him in a fight. But that wasn't enough for certain characters. That wasn't enough for Retsu Kaio, alright? It just wasn't enough. He had to fight this man with his real swords. And I want to go over all the fights that happened. This dude fought Baki, alright? He fought Baki. And Baki has to be like the second strongest character in the entire series. Even though Yujiro conceded defeat to him, Yujiro gave Baki the win on that last fight, making Baki on record the strongest character in the entire series. Yujiro could have ended Baki. You know, Baki knew he couldn't beat Yujiro. Yujiro just gave the matchup. Yujiro was still stronger than Baki, alright? Baki was done. He could barely even stand. He was finished, but Yujiro was like, you know, you earned the win, I'll give it to you. But realistically speaking, Yujiro is still stronger than Baki. He's still the #1 strongest. Although Baki did lose to Pickle, he has no official victory over Pickle. He only lost because he stopped using martial arts against Pickle and he wanted to stoop down to his level and fight like a beast, fight like a caveman, just throw hands, and that's why he lost. If he continued with the martial arts, he would have defeated Pickle. And that's further proof of that is when Pickle tries to interrupt the father-son fight. Like Baki sort of slaps his cock on the table, and Pickle has no choice but to sit down and respect it. Pretty much, he just bitch slap. I forgot what he does. Does he hit Pickle? I think he punches Pickle in the face or something, and Pickle just sits down like a good little bitch and just watches the rest of the fight along with everyone else, knowing that this wasn't his fight. You know, Baki, he could have beat Pickle, so that's why I put Pickle at #3 in terms of being the strongest character. And Musashi Miyamoto just bodied Baki. Now, mind you, Baki didn't go full power. Masashi didn't use his swords, but Baki didn't use Demon Back. The problem with Baki is that I'm not sure if he could activate his Demon Back at will, like he did on the Baki vs. Kengan crossover. He activated it at will on that, but I don't think he could do that in canon. The only time the Demon Back is actually activated is when he's near death, and it's sort of like in response to his endorphins that are active. Baki has this power up where when he's in a near death scenario, he unlocked this when he was a kid, his endorphins activate and he starts going a little bit more crazier because he can't feel pain. It's sort of like adrenaline, but it's different. It's not the same chemical. It is a brain chemical though. It's his endorphins. He just goes hard, you know, he starts training harder, works harder because he can't really feel pain like that. You just get, you know, got that rush. It sounds like adrenaline, but it's different. He fights someone that uses adrenaline and it has the same animation, but the color of the chemical entering the brain is different from the endorphins. It's really weird. You get endorphins from when you work out, so that's why he's using it when he was training. But yeah, it's usually like a near-death power-up. During a time skip, after the time skip, he learns how to like activate it on his own through a pressure point. No, through pinching his ear. When he twists his ear, he can activate it. But it doesn't activate to the degree that would awaken his Demon Back like when he's getting bodied. Once it activates after he gets his ass beaten, or eaten, whichever one, that's when like the Demon Back usually forms, when he's like losing. That's when it forms. But like Miyamoto just knocked his ass out before he even got to that point, unfortunately. So we really don't know what would have happened. Masashi beat him. I don't know if he's actually stronger than Baki. The difference between Masashi and Baki is that Masashi is a warrior and Baki is a fighter. Even though Baki has fought in a warrior in the form of Gaia when he was a kid. Gaia is a soldier, right? He fought in the battlefield. But Masashi pretty much establishes that not all warriors are on his level. He says most of the martial artists that he fought in the modern age, the Baki cast, are stronger than the common warrior of his era. And the common warrior of his era was like him. They knew what it meant to go to battle. Fighting means dying. They were always on the edge, just like him. Yet their strength was just not on his level. So Gaia could be seen like that. He's a warrior. He probably has similar senses to Masashi, but he's just not on that level. I mean, he did lose to Kid Baki after all, so he just isn't on that level. But Baki was defeated, square on fight, really. And Masashi didn't use his swords, he used bare hands, which is crazy. He beat Doppo, and he actually used a sword against Doppo, but he didn't pierce him, he just slammed him onto the ground with it, so he slammed his sword into him. Doppo lost. You know, he bodied a few cops. When he bodied the police on television, that was really interesting because everyone watching TV couldn't see what was happening to the officers. The officers were just stroking out, falling over, seizing up, and passing out. But all the Baki characters watching the news, they could see that key slash going through their bodies, that aura going through their bodies in precision, slashing through them even though it wasn't actually there. And that's where they realized that they wanted to fight this dude. Had the samurai Motobe from the first 2001 series, the older character. He's in the 2001 series. He's talking about he wanted to protect him from Masashi because he understands what it means to fight a swordsman, as a sportsman, or a martial artist. You know, it's different. He's from a different world, so he's scared for the main cast. He's like, I'm going to protect him. And when he said that, I was like, ooh, if he says that to Yujiro, it's not going to be pretty, because that's disrespectful. That's very disrespectful to characters like that. But he's serious. He says it to Baki. And Baki, he sort of gets butthurt, but he sort of understands. He pretty much proves Baki wrong with a smoke bomb. And he's behind you, nothing personal, kid. Baki couldn't do anything about it. Baki has to accept the fact, like, damn, this dude could have killed me even though I'm stronger than him. So, you know, the warrior mindset is different from the fighter's mindset. Fighters and warriors are not the same. But then you got the dude Kaio Retsu. You know, he just wanted to put his life on the line. He actually did body Masashi in hand-to-hand combat. Even though he admit Masashi's stronger, he actually knocked his ass out and won a fight, so that's pretty good. But he wanted to fight him at full power, so he arranged the match in the underground arena. The dude Retsu had a technique, you know, saying that if you make yourself as light as a feather, blades can't pierce you. And Masashi over here training, cutting feathers. It's just the worst thing ever. Like, once you see that, like, you're just like, oh no, bro. Like, he's cutting leaves, feathers, and this dude Kaio trying to make himself as loose as a feather. It's just the worst thing ever. And when they pull up to the fight, like, it's different. They're allowing weapons in this fight, except guns. And Retsu's armed to the teeth. He has kunai knives. He's using a lot of Japanese weapons. A lot of kunais, a lot of shurikens. But then he pulls out this Chinese weapon. I forgot what it's called. He has some strange Chinese weapon. I forgot the name of it. It was really interesting. That wasn't enough against Masashi though. And like, he's left with no choice but to use that feather technique. And it actually starts working at first. But the fight, it just doesn't end well. And like, when the fight ended, I was with the audience. Like, I wasn't really sad. I was just in shock. Like, it was just so fucked. Like, holy shit. Like, obviously it's a samurai, you expect it, but this dude Retsu got cut in half, bro. He had this whole montage of him trying to figure out, like, if he could actually overcome the blade, and then he just falls over, his intestines just spilling out. I'm like, wow, shit really just got real. Like, damn, they killed Retsu. I was like, damn, they killed his character, bro. And like, I don't know if that lady's alive or not after Masashi just like, he struck her after he woke up, but if she is, because she's pretty old, man, she looks pretty old, getting hit by someone like him, I don't know, man. But if she is, maybe you could clone Retsu and put his soul back in his body, maybe, I don't know, because this dude got killed. And someone, and remind you, like the maximum tournament, well, I guess that's a specific tournament, I can't keep calling it that, but the fights held in the underground arena are supposed to be secret. And someone snitched to the police that this dude can kill Kaioretsu. So the police come to the Tokugawa estate and they want to arrest him. He goes to the police station. They say, yo, I'm not going to hold you. We'll let you go if you fight our guy. And funnily enough, one of the police officers there was actually voiced by Moist Critical, the YouTuber. Charlie, I did not see that coming. Penguin Zero. That was interesting to say the least. But yeah, they use kendo, and this dude just smashes the kendo sword over this dude's head so much it just gets destroyed. Alright, he just destroyed the kendo sword, and he goes home after that. Right now it seems like they're foreshadowing. Oh yeah, he fought Yujiro Hanma. He did fight Yujiro. What I found weird is why Motobe felt the need to protect Yujiro, because Yujiro isn't just a fighter, he's also a warrior. Did you forget that he brought America down to its knees? The entire military. He fought in a war barehanded and won. So I don't understand why they think he's not a warrior. He's a warrior, alright? He's been in war already. He's done the unspeakable, alright? So just like dismissing him as a martial artist or like a sports fighter is kind of disingenuous in my opinion of the series to do. This dude literally took down an entire military force alone and got the country of America to surrender to him. Alright? They surrender to him, which is crazy. But when he fights Motobe, it gets to the point where he actually activates Demon Back. So Demon Back to Yujiro isn't the same as Baki, where he needs his endorphins. To him, it's just going Super Saiyan, really. It's just going Super Saiyan. And he actually, and his shirt doesn't rip off, but you know it's there because his hair is rising up with his aura. And the fight was going so hard, like Musashi's sword could not penetrate Yujiro. It could only leave shallow cuts. Like, realistically speaking, I don't think Musashi would have won that fight. I just don't see it happening. Yujiro Hanma destroyed an abnormally large African elephant. Yujiro Hanma stopped an earthquake just by punching the ground. Yujiro Hanma fired ki blasts from his hands and feet. I just don't see Masashi Miyamoto winning against him, man. You know, and he was doing pretty good. He was doing good against Yujiro, but I just don't know. I just don't see him winning. But the question is, how would he fare against a full power Baki? That's what I really want to know. If Baki had his demon back activated, how would Masashi do against an opponent like that? You know? But the issue is, as Masashi was fighting Yujiro, Masashi was actually evolving, and he was sort of becoming a Nanto Seiken fighter from Fist of the North Star. Like, he was learning how to cut with his hands. He wasn't going to need a sword. He was going to be able to cut people into pieces with his hands alone, because it's illegal to use the blade. So you might as well learn Nanto Seiken, you know what I mean? Yeah, this dude was turning himself into like an actual sword, which is crazy. But the fight was interrupted by Motobe. Hey bro, when Yujiro crashed out, you should have seen what he was about to do to him. Like, the fact that Musashi actually had to step in and stop what Yujiro was about to do to this man when this man was already unconscious is crazy. Like, I never seen Yujiro crash out that hard. Yeah, he has a few crash outs in the series, but this dude, it was so bad. My only regret is that the fight couldn't end. And now it seems they're foreshadowing Pickle versus Motobe. I mean, Pickle versus Musashi. If I'm being honest, Pickle is stronger than Musashi. But the fact that he couldn't overcome Baki's basic martial arts, he's not going to beat Musashi, bro. Musashi's just going to be able to avoid everything he does. Because, like, if Pickle hits Musashi once, he might die possibly, right? He might eat Musashi, but I'm just saying, even if he goes berserk, like, Musashi's just too good at this shit, man. Pickle fought giant opponents, but he was never surrounded by a bunch of Tyrannosaurus Rex that could fire projectiles, like, just varied projectiles from every angle, every corner of the field. He never had to deal with, like, threats coming from every angle. It's just not the same. And the fact that he scales to the Hanmas, I just don't think Pickle gets out of this one unscathed. I don't think Pickle's gonna die. There's a chance that his skin is as comparably as hard as Yujiro, so there's a chance that Musashi can't really dismember him or anything like that. But I do think he's gonna have this man crying. He's really gonna have this man crying, bro. Now, if Pickle transforms, if Pickle actually transforms into that state he used, we don't know what's gonna happen. But like I said, Musashi is evolving. We don't know what his completed evolution is gonna look like. We're just gonna have to wait until the second core drops, which I hope it drops soon. A lot of people were saying that this season of Baki was ass. I was like, I'll watch it myself and make my own decision, and I enjoyed every second of it. Every second of it. I need more. I hope they don't take too long. I need more Baki Dou.